in the last video I did, I hunted twice at Dave's farm, and then I scouted for my next hunt at Dave's farm, and then we ended the video with a hunt at Fort McCoy. Well, when I scouted Dave's farm before I left for Fort McCoy, if you remember, I saw a lot of deer sign. I figured out where the deer were coming from to go to the corn. I cut a lot of buck tracks and doe tracks. I only got a doe tag, and I kind of wanted to get Rick over there. I think this corner needs to be hunted. I can get Rick out here. Maybe I can put him out in there in the grass on a chair. But, motivating Rick is harder than you would think. Well, I was kicking it around. It got down to the end here, and I decided to get Rick over there and go back beyond the beans and go down the hill to where they come out of the bedding and get them down in the prime area. Now that prime area, I don't let just anybody go down there. That's a sacred area. I let Rick go down there once, and that was it. Otherwise, it's just been me and Dave's gone. But I decided to let Rick have a chance down there to hunt, and me and him set out to go over there and hunt all that sign coming out of the back. I'm at Dave's farm. So in the last video we talked about, we came out here and I scouted back and I found all kinds of sign and where it was coming from. Some things have changed since then. It snowed a little more, and I don't think there's enough for a snowmobile trail, but they opened it up. So that has pretty much stopped all the activity up here. As you can see, the deer trails that were so pounded are empty now. And what we're gonna do, what's that?
There's not enough snow to snowmobile.
No, there's not. They hardly get any snow, so they try to take advantage when they have a chance. But we got a wind that's kind of going like this now, and I believe those deer are gonna be bedded back there and coming like this and in. We're gonna scout a little further back. We're getting down to the wire here. There's I think it ends Monday and today's Saturday, right?
Yep.
So ain't much time left to get something done here. So we're walking across the farm, and the first thing I'm noticing is that the deer tracks are just about gone. And I get back here, in the back of the farm, I find boot prints, and where somebody dragged a deer out. Let's see where they went. Looks like right onto the neighbors. You gotta like that stuff, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can see where the leg was dragging. Figure out where there's boot prints going both ways. I'm gonna have to look and see if they're in a tree stand back here. There's my tree stand there. Hopefully it wasn't hunting out of that. Right away, I thought, well, somebody dragged a deer out of here. Maybe they shot it someplace else, maybe it ran into here. So I followed the tracks to the land border and saw where somebody had parked. So here's his tracks coming up. It drives around that area there, over to here, parked right here. You can see where he was parked. Got out right there, you can see where he peed, walked over here, walked onto the property. He walked in and out the same way both times. And he not only came back past this point, he went all the way across the property, through that tree line, through that next opening, down the ridge, and almost to the neighbor's property. I really can't, there's too much deterioration where I can't make out the boot type. There's only two sets of tracks coming out of the truck and going back into the truck. One person. They parked in the field right in the open where you could see it from the road. Which struck me kind of odd. Almost like they felt like they could be there. I followed the tracks the other way. They went all the way through the bean field, through our tree line in the center of the property, went into the back area. They went over, and it looks like they stood in a position in that grass for a while and like looked around. Looks like the guy stood right here for a little while for some reason. Just watching out over the field. Then they walked over to Dave's memorial tree and read the plaque. Look at this, the tracks go over to Dave's tree. Well, they just came over and read the sign. And from there, they went down the hill into the sacred area. When I got on the hillside, the ridge that all the bucks run when they come in and out of bedding, there's a big rub line there. I noticed that the trail split. Tracks went off this way, tracks went off that way. The blood came from that way. So I followed the tracks where the blood didn't come from. Figured it probably came from the hunting spot, but all I found was some packed down snow where somebody stood. So Rick, so you know, this was going to be your sure kill right down here. I mean, every deer in the freaking woods was coming through here. I mean, you can't even, I mean, it doesn't even matter if you're on private land, people screw you up. It's insane. Now the track's going back this way and that way. Now this way they just go over here and look. Alright? Yeah, they were standing here for a while. I don't think so. Let's just keep following it. Can't be too far, there's a lot of fresh blood here. Now the blood's ending up towards Wagner's property. Where does it go here? Looks like it died right here. So, you might be right about where he was.
He shot up here, came down here. Died right by the tree.
I'll have to ask her if she, yeah, that's where it died. This is insanity.
This had happened within the last 4 or 5 days.
Oh yeah, I was just out here last weekend, yeah. So they ruined your hunt for you, buddy. I think we should just call it and figure out what happened here. So you're right, that guy was hunting up there. That's why the ground was all matted down. So following these tracks, the guy drove into the neighbor's property, about 400 yards over there, walked over here, walked down here, came over here, and stood right here and shot that deer. Now, I'm wondering what kind of weapon he used that he could just stand here and shoot a deer. You can see where he pissed too. So, number one, that's quite the poke. It almost looks like he was poaching with a gun.
We should find a track.
This is where he was sitting though. I turned around, I followed the trail down, and it went down the hill, went about 80 yards from where the standing spot was, and you could see some melted out tracks going down there from a distance from the other way, and you could see the blood, and you could see where something got killed, and it looked like it dropped right there, like it was dropped in its tracks. I've never seen anybody shooting a bow at 80 yards other than extreme videos. It's pretty rare, and I don't think you'd do it with a crossbow either from a standing position on a hill. And from the spot where the shot was, I look back and I'm looking through brush. I'm looking through brush back up the hill to where this guy was standing. Ain't no arrow flew through that brush. That was a rifle bullet. I looked real close. I could see a couple twigs nicked in between. I went back up to the spot and tried to search for the shell casing, but I couldn't find it. I'm sure it was under the snow. You know, you put in all these hours of work into a property like this, putting in these bean fields, putting in the corn fields, making the paths, setting up the tree stand spots, cutting them out, putting up permanent stands, running cameras. And I hunt this property probably 10 times in a season. Maybe 2 or 3 times during turkey season also. But for that 10 or 13 hunts in the entire year, you do all that work and you have some jack butt like this come in here and just take advantage of your work and steal from you. I'm not saying I owned a deer, but he can hunt on that side of the fence all he wants. He doesn't have to come over here and take advantage of the work I did. He could do the work over there. He could draw the deer over there. The neighbor back there does. I have no problem with that. But this guy doesn't like the situation he has. He likes the situation I have. He's like a Democrat. He wants me to put in the work, me to put in the effort, me to supply the property, and him to just come over here and take it. He's probably hunting here because the last place he got ran out of. People like that usually have a history through life of the way they've treated other people and treated properties. And you know, you look at these guys that poach, they don't stop poaching when they get caught. They just get smarter and they just do it more sly. Really, it sucks. Plain and simple. Just putting in this field, you know what the work was for this? Not to mention the fields down there, the food plot over there, the food plot over here. The area down there, I literally only hunted that one time this year where I took Rick back there and let him hunt. And even that was like, I really don't want to hurt that area. And this guy just marches through here like he owns it and goes down there and shoots a deer. I considered my options. How should I handle this? The farm where the truck was parked, the guy that owns the property used to be real decent with us. He was a good friend of Dave's, gave us permission there, but then he let some relative in there who's a jerk, who we caught trespassing, who when Dave caught him trespassing, he pushed Dave, yelled at Dave, screamed at him, and then got us kicked off of going on to that property, the adjacent property, because we caught him trespassing. Funny, ain't it? And then the landowner asked us to stay out of there. Then he came back and cut down the trees that were on the tree line. They're on the fence line that were half on their property, half on our property, that me and Dave had tree stands in. Just let them fall with the tree stands in them. A couple of trees, actually, by our survey, were on Dave's property that got cut down. But we didn't pursue it. Guy was a friend of, the landowner was a friend of Dave's. We just let it go. Just stay on our side of the fence, you stay on yours. But this guy has been kind of a pain, a thorn in the side, you know. And now this truck came through and parked where that guy always parked. Trespassed how he trespassed. And I have to wonder, I know by now they heard of Dave dying. I know that they know the mom moved out. I mean, they live right kitty corner. Word gets out. So I'm thinking about how I should handle this. So there's a caretaker to the property. I called her, talked to her, then I went over and met with her. And she said, since Dave's death, several people have tried to, you know, ask permission on the property, tried to lease the property, tried to get a hold of the hunting. And she just told them all that they had to talk to me. She said, nobody's got permission. With the exception of one group that I let coyote hunt back there with dogs after I'm done bow hunting. Because they run the whole block, and if I knock my block off, they can't really coyote hunt. but I'll let them run through, but not when bow hunting's going on. So anywho, then I call the landowner in Texas. Well, actually, I sent her a message and I said, hey, I think we got some poachers out here. Here's what happened. I told her, and I says, how do you want me to handle that? And she said, how do you think it should be handled? And I said, well, I could call the DNR warden, the local warden, and talk to him about it and see what he has to say. And she thought that was a good idea, so I called the warden. He agreed to meet me out there on Monday, today actually. And I went back out there, took a real close look at the boot prints, took some pictures of them, looked at how the truck was going on in and out of the property, the neighbor's property that was accessing ours. And I went back and I looked at that sign a little closer without Rick, with a little more clear mind, and tried to decipher, almost like I'm looking at a deer bed to set up in. What was this guy thinking? What was he doing? Now I knew for sure, looking at the way this guy acts his property, he's been there before. He knew right where to go, how to go through the property, how to travel through tree lines, where the trails were. And I noticed along the way there were some broken branches, and it looked like he'd been there once or twice before. So I walked up and down that path, and I looked at where you could see the legs dragging in the snow, and I looked at how this guy pulled it out, and it looked like he was pulling it on a drag rope. And I noticed that the snow wasn't real heavily compacted. And I started to think, you know, I don't think this guy poached a deer. I think it could be that he shot a big coyote. It'd have to be a big coyote by the size of the sign of him dragging this thing out, but I bet you it was a coyote hunter. So maybe he came back to calling or something. That would be why would he stop in two places? And I never seen a deer hunter just stand with no tree to lean against and just stand in one position for a long time without sitting or anything. And from to shoot a rifle at 80 yards with his truck parked in plain view of the road, even poachers aren't that stupid. Hell, Democrats ain't even that stupid. I'm thinking it's a coyote hunter. Now, I'd already called my neighbor, the coyote hunter. He's a deer hunter, but he also coyote hunts. I called him up and I said, hey, let me ask you, did you or any of your guys go coyote hunting, in the last few days? He said, I coyote hunted, but nowhere's near the farm. I hunted at another place. Nobody's been over there. I said, you sure? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So I gave all my information to the warden, and we were going to meet today to do an investigation, and then I sent that coyote hunter another message, and I said, let me ask you this. Do you know anybody that would have been back there? Do you know anybody in the area who coyote hunts who may have come back there and hunted? And he says, no, I don't know anyone. I says, okay. If you got any friends over there that are coyote hunt or something, might want to check with them, because when the warden gets over here, I'm sending the law over to the neighbor's property who let this guy on, because he's going to know who did this, and I'm gonna press charges for trespassing. So then a few minutes goes by, and he sends me a message back, and he says, I got a friend I'm gonna have call you. And my phone rings, and his friend calls me, and I know the guy. He's a local coyote hunter, and he says, Dan, we were coyoting over at the farm, and one of the old guys in the group went over there and shot a coyote while we were driving. I didn't know he was going to end up on your property or whatever, and blah blah blah. And, you know, they kind of got a mind of their own, blah blah blah. And I said, you know, I got one rule for you guys: just stay out of there while I'm bow hunting. And he's like, yeah, I thought you were finished and blah blah blah. You know, you got your deer early. I said, that doesn't mean that I don't have a friend who's hunting, that I'm not still doe hunting, that I'm not still observing deer or something. Just send me a message, let me know you're going to be out there, and don't go on the property until after bow season. He apologized, and all's good. And I think, if anything, now we're on a better playing field, because now I think it's locked in stone how I stand on that. I called off the warden, told me he didn't have to come out, and called off the law, and let it be at that. And they seem like good neighbors, and I don't want to cause problems. You know, I shoot deer, they run over onto their property and die, and vice versa. I don't want trouble with them like I got with the other. You know, let me ask you this. You know, what do you do with poachers, trespassers, things you catch on your property? I mean, you just get mad about it, yell at them, put up all kinds of signs? Do you call the law? Do you press charges when you catch them? Or do you let them go? Now for me, there's different degrees of poaching. There's different degrees of trespassing. If that guy would have blatantly shot a deer with a rifle out of season, I mean, there's no stopping me. I would have pressed charges to the fullest. There's no place for that, right? But when it turned out to be a coyote, and this guys just thought I was done, I just locked it in. Don't do that again. And I think that's fair. I think they're just out there trying to kill some coyotes, and that's fine. But there's guys who will trespass because they think you're not around, and they'll hunt on your property in a devious way, especially deer hunting. They'll sneak into your ridge, hunt a day during the middle of the week or something when they think you're at work, sneak out. That's where trail cameras come and play. You know, hide them things around and catch people. That's how we caught the guy that was on the neighboring property cheating. The one that got us kicked off of that property because he trespassed on our property, caught him with trail cameras. You know, the other kind of trespasser is the guy who, like in this area, you shoot a big buck and it runs over to the neighbor's property and you don't know him. Or you got permission on the neighbor's property, he don't like it, and you go over there and you say, hey, just shot the buck you've been after all these years and it ran on your property, and I'm going to go over there and get it. Is that all right? How do you think that conversation is going to go? It's probably going to be a big fat, you stay the hell off my property. Well, then you just can't retrieve the buck. That's Wisconsin law. So a lot of guys will just go over and get the buck, especially if they can see it from the land they can be on. Now, I wouldn't do that, but what I am saying is it's a lower class of trespassing than the guy that comes sneaking onto your property and shoots a deer on your property and sneaks it out. Okay? Take it for what it's worth. Both situations are a crime. But you can handle it the way you want to handle it on property you control. So I'm wondering, you know, in these situations, what would you do? You know, put your comment down below. I'd like to see some conversations about that. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's been a fun, long grind of a season. It's coming to a halt today. The deer season in Wisconsin is going to end in a few hours. And I hate to cut this short, but in the wind, I can hear my name. And I need to get out there.